In this lesson, I'm going to talk about setting true north in the model using the Solar North tool. We'll do it in Revit as well with a project location point, but let's start with this. If you open the tile of the site from the Boston BRA website, they give you a model, SketchUp model of these buildings, right? And there's the building. It's modeled in context with some other buildings there. But the nice thing about the BRA tile is oriented, aligned with true north. True north is straight up. So if I take the building model, for example, and copy it to my site, the prototype model, and just paste it in place, I can do a couple things. So true north in the model is straight up if the building were rotated in this position. So I can use component attributes and add the rotation of this object around the z-axis, which is going to tell me the amount I need to rotate Solar North for it to be in the correct position. So I'm going to take our site, we know, is at this point. Let me see if I can draw a line. So there, at that endpoint corresponds to this endpoint where the building changes direction. Right? So the two lines I just drew, that line represents this face, the horizontal, or the red axis here, and the other line represents that slightly inflected face that's adjacent to it. So I'm going to rotate this so that it lines up with my model. Let's set it at that point. Remember, we want take that endpoint to there and rotate it until that is along the red axis. Okay? So now this excerpt from the BRA website, let's change style to X-ray. So if we were to move it over from that point to the end point, that's our building model in the site. I could see this in 3D, right? It actually snapped to geometry there, so I'd want to raise this. Actually, we can do it with component attribute, right? Let's set the Z position to 0. Does that work? Go to front view, Z position 0. So these buildings are somewhat elevated. So we'll move this down, hold the blue axis in place and just snap till we meet geometry. So there is our building in the site. The bottom of our site projects below, naturally, because we modeled the basement, and there's no basement in this model. Let's go to a top view again. So now the question is, how far did I have to rotate the building? Well, we had to go 124 degrees, so we're going to set Solar North 124 degrees west of what north is in this model. This stuff can be confusing, but basically turning in this direction till that angle is, because the control box is reporting the absolute angle, I have to subtract from 360 125 degrees, and that should give me about 235. That's going to be close enough. So now if I put on my shadows, noon is coming from, what actually is south. So we get a little bit of sunlight. Turn off X-ray mode. We get a little light from this direction. Now, it's deceiving because we don't have the context of the adjacent building. So I could move the entire tile in and rotate it with respect to that. But if we simply, because this is oriented with respect to true north, if I go to a 3D view and just kind of turn till I see that building in Court Square, it's actually in there. And I'm going to turn shadows on here and create the same sun position. This is roughly the solstice, 12 p.m. See if we get any light on that face. We really don't get much direct sunlight. At about 9 a.m. The rest of the day is pretty much in shadow. Anyway, natural light, except for, a brief time in the morning, is not going to be significant in this site.